Hello and welcome to Story Retold. I'm Calina and we are making the Marzipan tulip from Nancy Drew, The Secret of Shadow Ranch. In the game, you, the player as Nancy Drew, get to bake the cake, but it's Shorty who makes the marzipan for you. You get to assemble the pieces and then paint the marzipan with food coloring at the end.
What are these?
I made you that flower Frances mentioned in her recipe.
Not only will I do that, I will also make the traditional version of marzipan, adding the food coloring to the dough, kneading it until it's got an even coloration.
Here's what I did. I mixed 4.5 ounces of powdered sugar, 2 3/4 ounces fine sugar, 7 ounces of almond flour, and then mixed these together. Then I added the 1 egg and 1/2 teaspoon of almond extract. Mix until you get a nice sticky dough. Dump it out and knead it just a little bit. I wrapped it up in plastic wrap and then put it in the fridge to chill for just a little while, because then when I roll it out and then cut it out, it's easier. Dust the surface and the rolling pin with powdered sugar and roll it out until you get about a 1/4 inch thickness. I used my butter knife to cut out the outline and then made small indents outlining the shapes. I also cut out the individual pieces of the flour to trace and cut out. For the ones that I wanted to bake, I preheated the oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit. Placed a solid flour and a flour of individual pieces onto the tray and baked them for 15 minutes. While they were baking, I cut out 3 more flours and placed them on a surface that I can paint on, such as a few plates. Once the cookies were done baking, I let them cool. Then I got out my special paintbrushes that I use only for food. In individual bowls, I put a few drops of each of the food colorings that I wanted: magenta, green, and red. You can use whatever colors you want. Just like painting, I dipped the brush in and brushed the marzipan. The most fun to paint was the solid marzipan flour here, because when I brushed over it, the food coloring would seep into the edges and create a defined outline. Here is the result. Then I painted the flour with all the individual pieces put back together. This is with magenta. Here is the result. With extra marzipan dough, I split the dough in half and then another half of it into quarters, because I wanted 3 colors here. I made a well in one part and dropped in some food coloring and mixed the dough, kneading it all together. I recommend using butter or some sort of grease like vegetable shortening on your hands, or use food-safe gloves because the food coloring may stay in your skin. Rolling out the dough to about a 1/4 inch thick, I placed my individual pieces and cut them out. I also baked these to see what would happen. Here are the cookie pieces baked. My last set of flours are the ones with the pre-mixed coloring and traditionally unbaked. Here I am assembling the pre-mixed marzipan and the painted on marzipan.
Here are the 3 traditional marzipan flours. Here we have the whole cookie that is in one piece, just with creases in it. You can see where the food coloring seeps in to create great outlines. Here we have the marzipan that's cut up into individual pieces, and then I put them all back together and then painted with magenta food coloring. And then here is the traditional way of making marzipan. When you add food coloring into the dough, knead it, roll it out, and then cut them up into whatever shapes you want. Let's taste test this. These are right here. Tastes like almond and sugar. Very similar to macarons. The flours are ready to decorate your cake. Which method sounds best to you? Traditional or baked? Would you have magenta, red, or some other food coloring for your flour? Take that, Shorty!